Support for Headline Humboldt is made possible in part by viewers like you. Thank you.
Coming up next on Headline Humboldt, St. Joseph Hospital is being sued by the state of California for refusing to provide some patients emergency abortion services. Also, Humboldt County Sheriff William Honsal joins us live to talk about Proposition 36, a ballot initiative that he says is needed to help fight Humboldt County's drug and crime epidemic. Coming up now on Headline Humboldt. From the top of Humboldt Hill, this is Headline Humboldt. I'm James Falk. Thanks for joining us. As someone who went through the criminal court system after having been arrested for possession of a controlled substance, I understand the importance of both leniency and consequences. If I hadn't feared jail time and a dark blemish on my criminal record, I might not have been so willing to seek treatment for my addiction and then work so hard to get better. There's leverage in severity. At the same time, the system could have charged me with a felony and sent me to prison. They chose not to, surmising at the time that enough of an opportunity remained for correcting the nosedive my life had become. What if they had chosen differently? In my case, if someone had been more severe, that series of events would likely have derailed my life and largely kept me from having the kind of productive recovery I've had over this past decade. But I also understand that not everyone has the support system I did, and not everyone recovers. There's leverage in forgiveness. To my mind, most drug offenders do belong in treatment and not prisons. Yet if defendants have no fear at all of suffering significant punishments for their behavior, there's often no legal leverage to get them into treatment at all. According to local law enforcement officials like Sheriff William Honsal and District Attorney Stacey Eads, that is precisely the problem we're currently facing. They are urging voters to support Proposition 36 on Election Day, which they say will help address these problems and give them the tools they need to make a real difference. Yet I do worry about over-incarceration and a prison system flooded with nonviolent offenders. Where's the balance? We'll speak with Honsal and go over these complexities. But first, the news. According to a recent report in the Lost Coast Outpost, the Yes on Measure F campaign, supported largely by the apparently bursting wallet of business tycoon Rob Arkley, has raised more than $1.2 million. These figures were reported in the latest batch of financial disclosure forms filed with the city of Eureka. All of that, minus just $600, comes from Arkley's Security National. The No on F folks have raised $19,537, with the largest donations coming from the Central Labor Council of Humboldt and Del Norte counties and the local chapter of the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, both of whom have given $2,500. Thus, Measure F, the so-called Housing for All and Downtown Vitality Initiative, has become the most expensive ballot measure in Eureka's history. After growing frustrated with the city's downtown development plans, Arkley started Citizens for a Better Eureka, which ultimately filed several lawsuits against the city. Security National also later bought the parking lot in front of City Hall for $500,000 and now refuses to let anyone park there. Those additional expenses are not listed in these disclosures. State Attorney General Rob Bonta announced this week that he has filed a lawsuit against St. Joseph Hospital or Providence for violating multiple California laws by refusing to provide emergency abortion care to people experiencing obstetric emergencies. One particular patient, Anna Nuslock, had her water break when she was 15 weeks pregnant with twins on February 23rd. A press release states that despite the immediate threat to her life and health, and despite the fact her pregnancy was no longer viable, Providence refused to treat her. Because a faint heartbeat was detectable and there was no immediate threat to Nuslock's life, the hospital's policy prohibited abortion services. She ultimately sought care at Mad River Hospital and was actively hemorrhaging by the time she was treated. The state is asking for a preliminary injunction to ensure that patients like Nuslock receive treatment. Mad River Hospital's birthing center is closing, and it's unclear what other options would remain for women like Nuslock who need treatment. If you were denied an abortion you needed in a medical emergency, or if you were denied any other emergency medical care, you can contact abortion.access@doj.ca.gov. We'll discuss Proposition 36 with Sheriff William Honsal after this short break.
We asked and you delivered. Thanks to your amazing input, we've curated a one-of-a-kind travel auction, packed with dream destinations waiting for you to explore. Whether you're craving a tropical escape or a thrilling adventure, this is your chance to bid on the trip of a lifetime. Mark your calendars for October 10th and get ready to register. And don't keep the excitement to yourself. Share the news with your friends. Everyone can join in and bid on these incredible adventures.
The moment you get your new car is something you will never forget, from the newborn stage to adolescence to growing pains and the unforgettable road trips. Your car is an extension of you. Saying goodbye can be hard. Why not let it continue its journey by donating it to your favorite public television station? Your vehicle will go on to its next life and you'll receive an extra benefit, PBS Passport. With Passport, you can stream a massive library of programs with the PBS app from your TV, phone, tablet, or other streaming device. So take pride in donating your ride.
Joining us now in studio is Humboldt County Sheriff William Honsal. Thank you for taking time out of your career to come down here and talk with us.
James, pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
No problem.
Yeah.
So Proposition 36, if you're living in Humboldt County and you have been anywhere around our community, shopping anywhere, you've noticed that there has been a uptick in security measures at local businesses, and there's been it seems like there's a lot of people on the streets and a lot of issues surrounding drug addiction, substance abuse disorder, and theft, and that kind of thing. Can you briefly describe from your perspective what situation the community right now is facing in regards to those things, and ultimately how Prop 36 may help?
Yeah, absolutely. James, thank you for having me here. I think all of us can see that there is a lot of problems here in the state of California. When we see runaway homelessness, when we see mental health issues becoming just the front page issue that we all have to deal with every day, as well as an addicted culture that we have. Something has to be done, and I think we see deterioration in LA, San Francisco, and Humboldt County and Eureka area, where we can't go anywhere in these downtown areas without seeing the effects of drug abuse. And so about 10 years ago, we had Prop 47 pass, and there was a lot of healthy things in there that people wanted to do, and there was a lot of positive things, saying things like, we need to get help for our people that are addicted as opposed to incarceration. No one can argue with that, right? But sometimes it takes something over someone's head in order for them to actually choose to get help with their addiction, right? And so you have to have some incentive, you have to have accountability, you have to have consequences for your actions. And that's what we've seen, is we have no consequences for theft under $950, and also runaway drug addiction, drug possession, and retail theft, and theft in general has become something that becomes unenforceable now in California, where oftentimes people don't call us if they're a victim of one of these crimes, or they see this crime in progress. And then if there is accountability there, or if there is a situation where we do get to make an arrest or give someone a citation, those get lost in the system. They're low-level misdemeanors, and despite how many offenses that may stack up, it's the same offense. Multiple misdemeanor offenses, there's no incentive now to go into drug treatment. And when we look at the root of the problem with a lot of these theft cases, and the start of a lot of heavy mental illness, it comes down to a drug addiction. A drug addiction and a drug problem. And as you've explained in your story, I see that over and over again when it comes to people that are addicted. And I've talked to people over and over again about, when they experienced the rock bottom in their life. And rock bottom is different from a lot of different perspectives. But when someone's about ready to lose their children, lose their house, face incarceration or state prison time, they start to take stock in what they can do. And judges love to have that situation where they can say, you have an option at this point in time in your life. Do you want to go to state prison? Do you want to lose your children? Or do you want to go into residential treatment? And the only way you don't get to go to state prison is if you successfully complete this drug treatment program. So there's incentive. Despite how hard it is, it's hard, right, to shake any addiction, right? Drug addiction, I've never been there, but I've only heard that it is a very difficult thing. That, if we can incentivize that, and if we can make sure that people have that opportunity, and that they get to a point in their time where they choose that, then let's let them do that. And it may take multiple times, right? We see sometimes where they start out and they fail. Well, they're going to go to jail. And if they reoffend, they're going to give that same opportunity again. And what Prop 36 does, it gives the judges that leeway to say, you've been arrested 4 times for possession of methamphetamine, possession of fentanyl, 4 times in the last 6 months. You need help. You need treatment. You're going to face 6 months in county jail, or you're going to go into a 6-month treatment program. What would you like to do? And at that point in time, a lot of times people will choose treatment. And if they don't pass treatment, then they have a jail sentence over their head.
Yeah. So, I mean, just to be clear of what's happening now, I mean, I think for a lot of people that's not clear. Like, I didn't realize right now that wasn't what was happening. When people get arrested and they've, for instance, they shoplifted and they're in possession of a gram of heroin, right?
Yeah.
What happens?
There's not a whole lot that happens. It's a misdemeanor. It's basically the same offense. When you steal anything under $950, it's a misdemeanor. When you have anything less than sales amount of illegal drugs, dangerous drugs, it is a misdemeanor, which means you get a citation. Oftentimes, law enforcement doesn't even take you to jail. It's a citation now.
Wow.
And it's really just a low-lying offense. That's the way the state of California wants it. And so we see that it's not just a low-lying offense, right? It is an opportunity for someone to get what we call justice involved, and for the justice system to instill some accountability and some consequences for that, because we don't want this person to continue to go down the road of being drug addicted, which causes them to steal stuff in the scenario that you have. And we've seen a lot of people in our society, and maybe you've seen it, whether it's Target or Walmart or one of our smaller, mom and pop stores, where people come in who obviously are down on their luck, who obviously are drug addicted, and they'll take things right off the shelf. They'll look at it, make sure the price is below $950, and they're going to take things off the shelf and sell it for pennies on the dollar to feed their drug addiction, because they have no other recourse. They have to do this in order to feed their drug addiction. And we want to stop this, because what we're seeing now in our society is this mental health issue, the homeless issue, the drug addicted issue that we see on the streets, and these people that are trapped in their addiction. It's become a part of our landscape. People just tolerate this, but that's someone's mother, father, that's someone's child that's out there.
Absolutely.
And I get phone calls, James, from people that know that their loved one is incarcerated for maybe a minor offense, maybe if it's for a serious offense, but they're drug addicted. They want me to hold them in jail. They want to keep them in jail because
safer there.
They are safe. They know where they are. They're not in danger in the jail. And then maybe they're going to get treatment. It's not happening right now. Judges are letting people out of jail. There's very few consequences. There's very few incentives for people to actually go through drug treatment. But all the same treatment programs are there. It's just not incentivized.
So now, I mean, previously, before Prop 47, there were some things about the law that I thought were unfair and kind of problematic. Like, for instance, at the time, possession of heroin was always a felony.
Right.
And so it immediately kicked off consequences that I thought, for some people, was overblown. And I have a hard time with those kinds of formulaic, like, it's always going to be this way. So what happened in my case is that the DA and the Eureka Police Department worked around to where I was actually charged with possession of methamphetamine, although I didn't have methamphetamine, so that they could make it a misdemeanor and then refer me to an outpatient drug treatment program. And it was PC 1000 was the diversion program that I was involved in, which is, if you complete the program, it's not on your record.
That's right.
I completed the program. I don't have a criminal record. That's great. It was a great opportunity for me. But if I didn't think that I had this felony looming over me, now I had other things going on in my head about what I wanted to get back with my wife and my kids, and those things were also driving me to try and recover. For folks who don't necessarily have that, who may have gone further down the road of totally obliterating their personal relationships, the only thing that's going to work is to threaten to take away their freedom.
That's right.
And so I get the balance, but then I don't want to go back to the world of mandatory sentences or sort of a regimentation like Prop 47 before Prop 47. Can you assure me that Prop 36 is sort of a balance and not necessarily going back to the way it was?
Yes. The one thing it does do, it classifies fentanyl as a dangerous drug, which is not currently in place in the book. So that's a good thing.
That's ridiculous. And
yes,
should be
it
done.
is ridiculous. The other thing it does as far as drugs goes is, if you're a drug dealer and you get convicted in court, that they will, as a part of sentencing, you'll be ordered to basically saying, just like we do with DUIs, is if you continue to sell drugs and someone dies as a result of you selling drugs, you could be charged with their murder. Because Because drug dealers peddling poison should be convicted of murder if their drug kills someone, right? I believe that wholeheartedly. Yeah. But the law changes that, and that admonishment will be given.
And especially with fentanyl, which is so absolutely deadly that even the smallest amounts can kill people.
Yes.
That's horrific. And
horrific.
We need to do whatever we can.
So the law is different now than it was prior to 47, or if it gets changed through Prop 36, because the first offense is still a misdemeanor, right? But if you do multiple offenses, then it could be considered a felony. And the judges could sentence as a felony. Could.
Yeah.
It all depends on the circumstances. What we're doing is we're giving the DA, we're giving judges the opportunity to hold a felony sentence over someone's head who does not get it.
Yeah.
They have multiple offenses. Again, the classic example is someone who is stealing over and over and over again, and they get caught with $300 stuff, $400 of stuff, $500 worth of stuff. That impacts, that amount of merchandise every day from the store impacts the store's bottom line, right?
Absolutely.
And then this person is not getting help because they're selling those things and getting continued in their addiction. What we want to do is if these things stack up, the judges have the opportunity to say, you've been convicted of 3 other offenses. Now your 4th offense, in the last 6 months, you're going to face prison time. You're going to go to prison because you aren't getting it. We've tried all these different steps. The next step is going to be state prison unless, because the root of the problem is drug addiction, you go into drug treatment. And then the court mandates the drug treatment, and then they give them that opportunity. So that's where Prop 36 really changes, because we can't continue in the road that we're going down right now.
Yeah.
We see this, and this is essentially a hamster wheel that we just keep going, thinking we're going to get somewhere. We're not getting somewhere. Yeah. This Proposition 36 was designed by our District Attorneys Association, and it's backed up by virtually all law enforcement, Democrats, Republicans, independents. It's something that we believe as a state that it is measures that we have to put into place. And things, again, this has to do with theft, drugs, and even mental health, mandatory mental health treatment as well. And we're going to see how this works. We're going to see if the judges utilize it. We're going to see if this works for our society, but we have to make some kind of change. And I'm happy that this is on there. Yeah.
One thing that you mentioned before the show is that I remember drug court being like this kind of ray of hope for people who had been arrested. And you were saying that before Prop 47 passed, it was heavily utilized. People were lining up around the block to sign up for it. But then once Prop 47 went away or came on board, that program lost its popularity.
Absolutely.
Can you explain a little bit why that's the case and what that reflects about the system?
Right. Again, when drug possession was a serious kind of offense where people could face some serious jail time, they chose drug court, and that was a great program. Again, like you said, multiple people utilized that program. There was accountability, there was drug testing, there was all this oversight, and people really broke free from their addiction. It was a popular program. We had graduations with lots of people graduating every year, and it was a very, very great program. When Prop 47 passed, then the incentive to be in that program went away because there was no more felony offenses.
There's no reason to go there.
There's no reason. They said, I don't have to. I'll go ahead and take the probation. I'll be on probation and promise to try and stay off drugs. And then when they get caught again, then the judge says, well, it's a misdemeanor. You could, face some probation violations. Well, they're not going to. They're going to get put on probation again. We have people on multiple counts of probation that there's no accountability for, and there's no incentive to go into drug treatment. Yeah. So they'd rather do that. If they have to go to jail, it's jail for 5 days or something. It's like big deal. They'll go to jail for 5 days and then go back out on the street after that.
Yeah. It's interesting also, one of the things that Prop 47 I think was meant to address, that it was sort of the less talked about aspect of it, at least in some corners, was the idea of prison overpopulation. That there was a lot of people in prison who were nonviolent drug offenders and maybe shouldn't be there, and there was heavily emphasis on cannabis, crimes and that sort of thing in the reasoning for Prop 47. We've gotten a little bit better in the state of California in terms of overpopulation. How will this affect that? I think that it would make some people who continually reoffend would go to state prison, so that could potentially impact the state prison population. How do you think that compares to what the impact will be on county governments, and where do you see that falling out?
Yeah, we may see a higher percentage of people going to prison and going to county jail. And make no mistake about it, James, is Prop 47 was all about prison population overcrowding. Okay. That's what it was all about. I know they want to care about people and that kind of thing, but the state was under essentially a consent decree to lower their state prison population. AB 109 tried to do that in 2011. They couldn't do it fast enough, so 2014 came and they passed Prop 47 and 57 that next year, and that was all about reducing the state prison population. And so, yes, there are a lot less people in state prison. They are out from under the 3-judge panel oversight because the population is now, they're actually closing state prisons. Wow. Susanville's closing. There's a lot of other prisons that are closing down. There's room in our state prisons to expand. And there's a lot of...
That's the question I guess I was
asking.
Yes,
there's room because what they're doing is they're closing down different pods in different prisons around the state. Those pods can be reopened at any point in time. There are programs within our state prison system that are not being utilized because the people that have been addicted to drugs aren't there anymore.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of programs. The jail that we have here in Humboldt County, it is a correctional facility. You know, it's not classified. Everyone else calls it a jail. We call it a correctional facility because there's opportunities to correct their behavior when they're inside. We have a medication-assisted treatment program for people that come in addicted.
Which I have to say is the most fantastic thing I've heard in my whole life. That honestly, people come in and they're suffering if they're going through withdrawal. This potentially can help those folks, and people who are in a Suboxone program, when they get busted, they can seamlessly sort of get into that program again, and it does change people's lives. So I was really happy to hear that,
Yes.
and I wanted to congratulate you
Thanks, James.
on that foresight, because I think that stabilizing people, I mean, people want to think that you make them suffer to go through withdrawal, then like they're going to come out stronger and more wedded to their sobriety. That's not the case. There's just fear and anxiety and pain, and if you can lessen that for folks, you're doing a massive service for helping them to stay clean.
That's right.
Ultimately. So,
unless you've been down that road, you have no idea what it takes to break addiction, right? And I don't know, but this is what I hear is the best opportunity, right? You curb that craving, and that's what these medications do, that curb that craving. So then also, after several days, and you're on medication-assisted treatment, and then your mind becomes clear. And then you can start thinking about where your future is going to be. Do you want to go back to what got you in there in the first place? Do you want to start making choices that are going to get you in an area that's going to, make your life better? And so that's the opportunities that we're talking about. And it's not only medication-assisted treatment, it's mental health, it's counseling. These are also, we have different classes that people can take in order to better their lives, and so they can be better when they get out. So that's why it's a correctional facility. And so right now, our correctional facility is about 280 people are in the correctional facility, and most of those people, surprisingly, are pre-sentenced inmates. These are people that are in custody awaiting trial. And so we have very few sentenced inmates in there right now, and our capacity is 417. So we have room in our facility for judges to start sentencing people, and we're encouraging judges to sentence people that are caught in their addiction or are a serious, risk to, stealing or harming others in our public. I mean, we want people, to get the help they need, but we also want to have accountability. Yeah,
it's interesting. I mean, previously there was often talk about the jail being right at the edge of capacity. Is Prop 47 why it's largely not as full now, or is that a combination of factors?
So we were, prior to the pandemic, our population was up. And so what we've seen through the pandemic is judges stopped sentencing people to jail. And they found alternatives and probation and those kind of things.
It's healthy. I mean,
it is if it works. Right? I'm all about that if it works. But if it doesn't work, if someone's out on multiple offenses, please sentence them to jail. But we are also having judges sentence people to prison now. That there does become a time in Prop 47 and 57 when someone does commit multiple offenses that are felonies that aren't subject to state prison, and those people are going to state prison now. So there are some incentives for people that are multiple felony offenders, and the only recourse is sending them to prison, and judges are sentencing those people to prison.
And now I have a couple more questions. We have about 4 minutes left. I often have a hard time with propositions because I think that people are making decisions based on emotionality or advertising campaigns, and that they don't necessarily understand the full ramifications of what they're passing. Now, Prop 47, for instance, had some great selling points to it, which included it had to take money that it was getting and spend it on, which the estimated state savings from its punishment reductions must be spent on mental health and drug treatment, school truancy, dropout prevention, and victim services. And so that was a potential revenue source for those types of programs. And some of the opponents now are citing the fact that if Prop 36 passes, that would see a reduction and that money that is going to those programs. How do you respond to that?
Yeah.
And do you think that's a concern?
It shouldn't be, because this doesn't fully negate Prop 47.
Okay.
This does not.
That's
And
an important thing for people to hear.
Yeah, so this doesn't undo Prop 47. It just changes some of the laws that Prop 47 put in place that had to do with theft and drugs. Prop 47 was a lot bigger than that.
Okay.
But one thing is, what's funny about Prop 47 is they talk about all those good programs, right? How do you think mental health is going these days?
Not well.
Not well,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
well. And so what we're seeing is a public safety realignment for mental health.
Yeah.
Is the state hospitals are absolutely full. They really can't take anyone. They need to expand their own mental health, and instead of expanding state mental health like they should do, like with state prisons, they're realigning that responsibility to the counties.
Yeah.
And so you're going to see, like in our own county jail, we have a jail-based competency treatment center for people that are incompetent to stand trial, because the state couldn't keep up. We felt obligated that we had to do it here locally.
Yeah.
And so we have beds dedicated to restore people to competency.
Yeah.
And so it's like all the programs they talk about, it's only gotten worse.
Yeah.
It hasn't gotten better. And also there's no incentive under Prop 47 to send people to programs.
Yeah.
And so all these programs may be thriving because they're flush with money from Prop 47, but what are they really doing? Maybe Prop 36 will get people into those programs now.
Yeah.
And where they're going to actually get help and treatment.
Well, that's, the interesting question. I think that you've largely answered it, at least to my satisfaction, which is this isn't a repeal of Prop 47, and it's not a total return to what the regime was before, but it adds some consequences and some potential maneuverability for law enforcement and for judges to force people into treatment. And if they refuse to go into treatment, or if they continue to reoffend, then the consequences get more severe, but not necessarily right out of the gate.
That's right.
Allows people room to make mistakes and then find a corrective approach, right?
Absolutely. That's being reasonable, right?
Yeah.
That's being reasonable, and that's what the law is trying to do here, is we're trying to be reasonable in that aspect of it. If someone's first offense, right, they get a misdemeanor, if they change their behavior, they're never going to see the criminal justice system again.
Yeah.
It might be a point where it's a deferred entry of judgment, like you saw, where
Yeah.
it's like, hey, you're going to be on the book for 6 months, you do this program, it falls off your record.
Yeah.
That's the kind of aspect that we want to see.
Yeah.
But if someone doesn't correct their behavior, if it's a second, third, fourth offense, it's time to step in.
Yeah, yeah.
It's time to help this person that was refusing to help themselves.
Yeah. Well, we're about out of time. I appreciate
James.
you coming down and talking with us, and I'm sure we'll have you back on the show.
Absolutely.
It's always a pleasure to have
I
you.
want you to come out too. We're going to go out to the jail or go on a ride along.
Yeah,
We'll
I
do
would
that.
love to do that, get some footage, and also take a look around. It'll be nice to be able to leave.
Absolutely.
This time.
Anytime. Anytime. That
Last
sounds
time
good.
it wasn't like that.
Yeah.
All right, that's it for tonight. Thanks for joining us, and remember to check out our podcast, Neon Galactic, on YouTube or anywhere you get your podcasts. Stay tuned, stay informed.